once again gripping the Horn of Africa, a region long marked by both breathtaking beauty and deep-rooted conflict. The world's attention is turning here, as old wounds threaten to reopen and new dangers emerge on the horizon. The fragile peace that followed the devastating Tigray War now hangs by a thread, with every diplomatic gesture shadowed by suspicion and fear. The scars of recent violence are still fresh, and the hope for lasting stability is being tested once again. At the center of this storm are two old rivals, Ethiopia and Eritrea. Their long and bloody history, marked by decades of war and uneasy truces, continues to cast a dark shadow over the present. The legacy of past conflicts lingers in every negotiation and every border patrol. Ethiopia's renewed demand for access to the Red Sea is seen by Eritrea as a direct threat to its very existence. For Eritrea, the coastline is not just a strip of land, it is a symbol of hard-won independence and national pride. This is more than a border dispute, it's a tangled web of historical grievances, economic desperation, and shifting alliances. The region's complex past and present are woven together, making every move fraught with risk. Ethiopia, landlocked and home to over 120 million people, feels choked by its geography. The lack of direct sea access stifles its economy, limits its trade, and fuels a sense of national urgency that cannot be ignored. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has called sea access an existential necessity, framing it as a matter of survival for Ethiopia's future. His words have resonated with many Ethiopians, but have also raised alarm bells across the border. Eritrea, which fought a long and bitter struggle for its independence and coastline, hears Ethiopia's demands as the drumbeat of invasion. The memory of past wars is never far from the surface, fueling a climate of suspicion and military readiness. The aftermath of the Tigray War has left alliances in flux, with accusations of new plots and betrayals echoing through the region. Old friends have become rivals, and yesterday's enemies may become tomorrow's uneasy partners. The people of the region, weary from years of war and hardship, watch the border anxiously. Their lives hang in the balance, hoping that leaders will choose diplomacy over conflict and that peace will prevail. The international community is watching closely, fearing that another conflict could destabilize not just the Horn, but the entire region. The Red Sea's shipping lanes are vital to global trade, and any disruption here could have far-reaching consequences. Organizations like the African Union and the United Nations are urging restraint, calling for dialogue and negotiation. But as troops mass along the borders and rhetoric intensifies, the risk of war grows with each passing day. The question remains, will calls for peace and reason be heard before it's too late, or will the region be plunged once more into chaos and bloodshed? The storm is gathering over the Horn of Africa, and its path is dangerously uncertain. The world waits, holding its breath as history threatens to repeat itself. Ethiopia has formally accused Eritrea of conspiring against it, escalating tensions that have simmered for years between the two neighbors. The Ethiopian government claims that recent events are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader, coordinated campaign to undermine its stability and sovereignty. In October 2025, Ethiopia sent a detailed letter to the United Nations, outlining its concerns and urging the international community to take notice. The letter, delivered to the Security Council, marks a significant escalation in diplomatic efforts to address what Ethiopia sees as a growing threat. The core of Ethiopia's accusation is the existence of the so-called Simdo Alliance, a shadowy coalition between Eritrea and a hardline faction of the TPLF. According to Ethiopian officials, this alliance is actively plotting to destabilize the country, coordinating attacks and spreading unrest along the volatile Horn of Africa border. Addis Ababa alleges that Eritrea is not only providing financial support, but also strategic direction to armed groups like the Fano militia. Once considered allies in Ethiopia's internal conflicts, these groups have now turned against the government, allegedly at Eritrea's behest. The government specifically blames this alliance for a recent, brazen attempt by Fano fighters to seize the strategic town of Voldia. Officials claim the operation was carried out with direct support from TPLF elements, further fueling suspicions of a coordinated campaign. For Ethiopia, these developments represent a direct and immediate threat to national security. The government has responded by placing its military and security forces on high alert, viewing the situation as far more than mere political maneuvering. Both the TPLF and Eritrean governments have strongly denied the allegations, dismissing them as fabrications designed to distract from Ethiopia's own internal challenges and failures. They argue that the accusations are part of a broader narrative to justify crackdowns and deflect blame. Eritrean officials, in particular, have dismissed Ethiopia's rhetoric as a smokescreen, suggesting that Addis Ababa is using the alleged alliance as a pretext to pursue its ambitions in the Red Sea region and to rally domestic support. The result is a region gripped by deep suspicion and anxiety, with each side accusing the other of plotting war. Military buildups and tense standoffs have become increasingly common along the border, raising fears of a wider conflict. Whether the Simdo alliance is real or a product of political imagination, it has become a powerful flashpoint in an already volatile standoff, fueling protests, propaganda, and uncertainty across the region. As the world watches, the stakes for peace or renewed conflict in the Horn of Africa have never been higher, and the outcome remains dangerously uncertain. Ethiopia's landlocked status since Eritrea's 1993 independence has been a source of deep frustration and economic strain. Reliant on Djibouti for 95% of its trade, Ethiopia pays billions in fees and remains vulnerable to regional instability. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has made access a national rallying cry, mixing calls for negotiation with veiled threats. The issue is about more than economics, it's about national pride and security. Ethiopia's government insists support is essential for the country's future, arguing the current situation is unjust. While officially seeking a peaceful solution, Ethiopia's aggressive tone has alarmed the region. The burden of being landlocked has become too heavy, and the government seems determined to change its fate. The quest for the sea is now a defining issue for Ethiopia's future. The region braces for what comes next. For Eritrea, Ethiopia's demands for sea access sound like a declaration of war, a direct threat to the nation's hard-fought independence and territorial integrity. The very idea of opening up the coastline to another country, especially one with whom relations have been so fraught, is deeply unsettling for Eritreans. Eritrea's coastline is more than just a stretch of land, it is the symbol of its hard-won independence. The port of Assab, located at the southern tip, stands as a proud marker of Eritrean sovereignty and national identity, fiercely protected by its people and government. The idea of ceding control, whether by lease, sale, or force, is unthinkable for Eritreans. For many, even discussing such options is seen as a betrayal of those who sacrificed for independence. President Isaias Afwerki's government, built on the principle of self-reliance, views any concession as a fundamental betrayal of the nation's core values. The leadership insists that Eritrea must stand alone, no matter the pressure. Eritrean officials dismiss Ethiopia's campaign as provocative, accusing it of harboring imperialist ambitions and seeking to undermine Eritrean sovereignty. They warn that any attempt to force the issue will be met with fierce resistance. The memory of the 1998-2000 border war, which left tens of thousands dead and countless families shattered, still haunts both nations. The scars of the conflict remain fresh, shaping every decision and fueling deep suspicion. Temporary alliances during the Tigray War did little to erase the deep mistrust that lingers between the two countries. Old wounds and unresolved grievances continue to cast a long shadow over any negotiations. Eritrea views Ethiopia's military buildup along the border as undeniable proof of expansionist intent, fueling fears that history could repeat itself. For Eritrea, defending Assab is defending the nation itself, a red line that will not be crossed under any circumstances. The port is seen as the heart of Eritrean sovereignty. The standoff over Assab is about more than territory. It is a struggle for sovereignty, survival, and the right to determine one's own destiny, shaped by the scars of a turbulent history. The stakes could not be higher, as both nations stand firm, knowing that the outcome will shape the future of the Horn of Africa. Tigray, straddling the Ethiopia-Eritrea border, is now a critical piece of this tense puzzle. After the Tigray War, families began crossing the border, symbolizing hope and a grassroots desire for peace. The TPLF frames this as progress, but Addis Ababa sees it as a security threat and a channel for arms and fighters. The Ethiopian government fears Eritrea is using the open border to support hostile factions in Tigray. What some see as a bridge for peace, others see as a path to war. The border's reopening has become a source of deep mistrust and strategic anxiety. Every family reunion is viewed through a lens of suspicion. The situation in Tigray adds another layer of complexity to the Red Sea standoff. In the Horn of Africa, even hope is politicized. The rhetoric between Ethiopia and Eritrea is now matched by military action. Both sides have increased troop deployments, dug new trenches, and reactivated old bases along the border. For border communities, the buildup is terrifying. Memories of past wars are fresh. Daily life is paralyzed by fear. Families prepare to flee, and the local economy grinds to a halt. Despite official denials, the scale of mobilization signals real preparation for conflict. The psychological toll is immense, as people wait for a war no one admits is coming. Governments claim the moves are defensive, but few believe it. The signs of war are unmistakable to those who have lived through it before. Border residents are caught in the middle, hoping for diplomacy, but bracing for disaster. The region stands on a knife's edge. Alongside military buildup, a fierce propaganda war rages online. Ethiopia's final filling of the Gerd has fueled digital nationalism, linking the dam's success to the quest for a port. Slogans like "From Gerd to Assab" flood social media, stirring national pride and justifying aggressive policies. AI-generated images depict a futuristic Ethiopian-controlled Assab, fueling public support and silencing dissent. Eritrean channels counter with reminders of their war for independence, portraying Ethiopia as a bully. This digital battle hardens public opinion and makes compromise harder. Propaganda on both sides raises the temperature, pushing the nations further apart. Online, the drums of war drown out calls for peace. The international community is alarmed as the risk of war grows. The African Union and global powers urge restraint and dialogue, warning of catastrophic consequences. The AU, based in Addis Ababa, leads diplomatic efforts, stressing there is no military solution. International partners offer mediation, fearing a humanitarian crisis and regional instability. Yet both governments resist outside pressure, wary of foreign interference. Nationalist rhetoric makes backing down politically difficult. As the world pleads for peace, the region edges closer to conflict. The Horn of Africa stands at a crossroads: negotiated peace or catastrophic war. On one path, a diplomatic settlement could respect Eritrea's sovereignty and address Ethiopia's needs. On the other, a fight for Assab would devastate both nations in the region. Ethiopia's government, driven by national pride, sees Assab as a righteous cause. Eritrea views defense of its territory as non-negotiable. The collision of these wills creates a direct path to conflict, yet peace offers a win-win. Economic lifelines for Ethiopia, prosperity for Eritrea, and no bloodshed. The future depends on whether mutual interest can overcome historical grievance. As of October 9, 2025, the answer is unclear. The world holds its breath. The question remains, Assab or Shalom? War